Welcome to our Weave and Stitch Along. My name is Gabi. Online I'm also known as Texas Gabi, and I would like to, over the next few weeks, um, talk about embroidery on pin looms. Um, there is the uh, total hexagon pin loom right here, but I also would like to show the same embroidery that we will be doing on the Zoom loom or any other square loom that you might have on hand. And if you take a look at this little display, um, you can see several examples of embroidery uh, that are family heirlooms. Um, First of all, there is the red one here at the bottom, and you can probably see it says November 1967, um, which happens to be the very first embroidery piece that I ever did. My mom just gave me a piece of fabric with a few little designs marked on it and a stack of embroidery floss similar to what you see here, and I got going. So, and this is what came out. Um, it's probably not the most uh, sophisticated embroidery, and certainly when you look on the back side, um, it's not very professional, but has kept over the years and turned into an heirloom. Let me just quickly show you a few other things. There are several stitches here, mostly straight stitches and some filling stitches, so rather simple. But you can see that even with very little effort and some pretty colors, you can do some very nice things. Um, then we have here, this one I made as a pre-teenager for my grandmother for her birthday. I still remember that, and she kept that on her night chest until she passed away many, many years ago. What you see here is mostly cross stitch. Here are some beautiful pieces that my mother made. These are little table toppers. This one is mostly with something called blanket stitch. And then last not least, here is one thing um, that she made, which is mostly satin stitch. And you can maybe hold this up a little bit that you can see just a little bit. So she embroidered not just on the fabric, but also around the fabric. Why am I showing this to you? Many of the ideas that you see here on those samples, I would like to use in our weave and stitch along. So some of the motifs you will probably recognize later on, and not just the motifs, but also the stitches. We will start with a very simple stitch today, which is called the running stitch. Then we will do some straight stitching. We'll do a few things with cross stitch and hopefully something with satin stitch. And I don't think I have an example right now, but there's a, oh yeah, here it is, a lazy daisy stitch. And so a few basic stitches, but you're not really tied to just making those stitches. If you combine them, you can do a lot of things. So, and all of this again, as a fabric, we will use woven fabric that we have made on our pin looms. I really like this idea because pin looms are modular, so you have a small area to work with, and you can put little designs onto it, and then you can combine it to a tabletop or an afghan. It's very nice to work with because one of the benefits is you pretty much have you weave onto your embroidery hoop, so you have perfect tension for working your embroidery, and we will get to that soon. Anyway, weave and stitch along. Probably you already got, let me just move this aside here, the getting ready document, and if not, all the information that you see here is available on turtleloom.com. So if you ever want to download anything or look up something, go to our blog website at turtleloom.com, where you will find all the documents and links to this video and the ones that will follow. A few weeks ago, I posted the Getting Ready document to welcome you, and I just want to briefly go through this. This weave along will be about 7 or 8 weeks. I think it will be 8 weeks, 7 weeks of stitchery and 1 week of assembly. I just said it will be, you will find everything on turtleloom.com. We will conduct this weave along on Facebook as well as on Ravelry. So if you are on Facebook, you can go to the Pinloom Weaving Support Group, and if you are on Ravelry, check out the Looms to Go group to find this weave and stitch along. Let's talk a little bit about the supplies. We already said that you can use either the original turtle loom, or you can use the Zoom loom or equivalent. One thing that is important is that if you use a square loom or a hexagon loom, please use the ones that we have on display here or equivalents. The original hexagon loom has 23 by 37 threads. Let me just put this over here and maybe we can zoom in a little bit, please. Thank you. So there are 23 threads across and 37 from the top to the bottom. And the Zoom loom has 31 threads across and 31 threads from top to bottom. Okay, why are they different? Let's just quickly talk about that. Here on the hexagon, it's a hexagon. There are, different measures, like from tip to tip, it's wider than from side to side, so you cannot have all the same number of threads like you have on a square. So here we will be working with 23 threads from side to side and 37 top to bottom. This weave comes to about 7 threads per inch. If we now look here on the Zoom loom, we have 31 threads here and 31 threads here, which comes to about 8 threads per inch. Now, as long as you work with one of those, there are also a whole bunch of square looms that have the same 31 by 31. As long as you have either one of those looms, you will be able to follow the instructions with no modifications. I will offer everything that we embroider to fit both of these looms. So loom wise, this is the original turtle hexagon pin loom. This is the Zoom loom from Schacht. So use either one of those looms to be able to follow along this weave and stitch along. The yarn for weaving the canvas, I used Caron Simply Soft, which is a nice yarn that has a little bit of a stretch but not too much, and I like because it's shiny. Not too much, just the right. So basically what you create is, when I talk about canvas, I mean the stuff that you weave on your pin looms, which will serve us as the fabric that we will be embroidered on. So Karen Simply Soft, I chose white um, because we will be counting a lot of threads. So make sure that whatever color you choose, that it's a light color that makes it easy to count all those little threads in both directions here. So alternatives, I have an off-white here and a little beige here. Again, you can choose any color you want. My suggestion is stay with a color that is light so that you can easily see all the threads in both directions, and choose a yarn that is not too fluffy, so mohair would definitely not do a good job, um, and that is not too stretchy. All right, next come the needles. And I chose uh, Susan Bates needles. The company doesn't really matter. I think size 16 is a very good size because they are thick enough to, and we will see that later, to easily go through or in between the threads without getting stuck. These are tapestry needles, by the way, so they have a dull tip, or they are not picky. So they are thick enough to easily go through the canvas, but they also don't just fall through the canvas. I have one more recommendation, which in my opinion only works on the hexagon loom. What I'm showing you right here is one trick that we will use later on. For the embroidery, I slide the canvas fabric all the way up to the top of the nails because that gives it nice spacing in between. But also, let me show you one thing. Some people don't like to go up and down through the whole fabric. And these are, I think it's pronounced here, darn it, needles. Um, these needles are, not sure if you can see that. Let me put this down here. You can see they are not straight. They are a little bit bent. You see that here at the tip? Let me see if here's one in yellow. Oh, there's the red one. I was looking for the red one. So that might stand off a little bit. Yes, okay, this one is the best to see. So you can see these are tapestry needles that have that go a little bit up at the end. And what they allow you to do is that you can just work on the surface. Let me show you just a quick little example here. What I mean by that is that you can just, you go down and up without going all the way through. So you can just work at the surface, okay? Down and up. Because it's tippy, it allows you to do that instead of going from the top down and pulling it through and then coming up at the other side. It might make it a little bit easier to count the threads. I have tried it on the Zoom Loom, but because you can't push it all the way up, it's a little bit more difficult to work with. So I can only recommend this method for the hexagon loom. The other thing is that those bent needles come in different ways. Susan Bates makes some, and Knitter's Pride makes some. Knitter's Pride is plastic and they are a little bit thick, but some of them still work. Susan Bates, the eye of the needle is turned, so it makes it a little bit more difficult. That's why if you want to go that route, I recommend the here, darn it needles. They are not cheap, so think about if you want to go that route or not. I will do the weave along with regular straight tapestry needles on both looms. but I at least wanted to quickly talk about that option for you. So, straight tapestry needles, size 16 is what I recommend. You don't have to go buy them. If you have anything else on hand, you might as well use what you have on hand. You could even use your weaving needle. It's a little bit awkward because they are so long, and going up and down with the weaving needle is a little bit tedious, but it is doable. Uh, you know, Alternative when you lose your needle. Anyway, so that much about the needle, and a quick word about the embroidery yarn and thread. Let me just move this up here a little bit so that I can show you this. Let's move this over here like this. And here are just a bunch of things that I want to show you. Here's some sock yarn. Here is some light worsted yarn. You probably recognize that from, I've used that just recently to make the poppy flower. But here are also, here is some tapestry wool. I'll put this up here so that's easier to see. And then here is some embroidery floss. And here are, so basically the idea is that whatever you have on hand, try it out. And our first lesson will be about exactly that. Try out what you have at home. If you have nothing at home, that is when I would like to recommend to go to the store. Yay, a reason for a shopping trip. And see what you can find there. Working with different colors for our weave and stitch along will be one thing. If you have to go buy, I suggest check out those Lion Brand bonbons packages, because they have all a good weight, and they also have in each package a good selection of colors. So, which means you buy one pack, you pick one pack, and that gives you a good mileage. For some of the stitches, I will ask for a more specific yarn down the road, but if you have any one of those packages, you'll be fine. Again, in our first week, we will explore different weights, and what you see here is actually exactly what we will be trying out. So everything from embroidery floss to wool, tapestry wool. We will try it out, but if you want to go shopping, pick up one of those bonbons. Here's one that has a little bit shine to it. This one is a little bit fuzzy but shows very well. And this is a package with cotton, which is almost like thicker embroidery floss. You can also hear one thing I did when I started. I just went to Joann Fabrics and picked up whatever they had in the clearance section. And so this is a collector's edition of embroidery floss with multiple colors. The embroidery floss is a little bit thin on the canvas, but you can still achieve very delicate and pretty results with it. So anyway, I encourage you, choose what you have. If you have to go shop, I do recommend any one of those bonbon packs, because they give you a good weight yarn and multiple colors in one pack. Anyway, so that is everything about the embroidery floss. In the Getting Started guide, I also suggested to get a fabric marker. We will have some designs that require that you draw a design onto the canvas, the fabric, and then start stitching those designs. There are tons of marking pens in the market. If you have anything from sewing at home, that's fine. but anything goes from from washable markers to this one is a dual purpose marking pen from Dritz, which is a little bit fancy and expensive, but I like it because I don't have to wash the fabric to get the markings out. So go to the sewing department in a fabric store if you don't have anything at home handy and check it out, or try out some washable markers, but make sure, I would say, weave a test motif and then try it out and wash it out to make sure that it really goes out. Anyway, nothing about that today. This is like looking forward. We will probably use that in week 4 or 5. And I also lastly asked you to get some rubber bands. And I got some comments from people who are like, rubber bands? What are we going to do with rubber bands? Well, I will quickly show you that before we close for today. And what we're going to do with the rubber bands, it's actually very easy. We will do, and this will start in just a couple of weeks, we will do designs that start in the center, which is very common for a lot of embroidery. Same here, we want to start in the center. And of course, you can count the threads and mark it and things like that. But a shortcut is if you take rubber bands that just go over your nails, since you have the nails, which you don't have on a regular embroidery hoop. So if you use the rubber bands, that eliminates the need to count all those threads. And we can do the same here on the Zoom loom. So just go from one corner to the other corners, like this, and from this one over here. I think I got one too many. And this is an approximation, but it works perfectly fine. So make sure you have a few rubber bands on hand. We will use them, I think it's in a couple of weeks, to easily and quickly find the center of our canvas to start embroidery in the center, which is very common when you do embroidery. All right. That should be it for today. Oh, one thing. It's not everything for today. Here we go. A few people asked, well, where is this going? What are we going to do with all of this? And the answer is we're going to make a tabletopper. So we will explore different embroidery stitches. Right now I'm thinking of 7 different sessions with different embroidery stitches and methods. It's not so much that we will just crunch through different embroidery stitches, but I also would like to give you some tools and ideas on what you can do with those, because it's not just here's an embroidery stitch, here's how you make it, done, next here's an embroidery stitch, and so forth. But what I would like to get to is here's an embroidery stitch, here's how to do it, and here is what you can do with it, because there are endless possibilities. I already know we will not be able to cover it all in 7 weeks. That's pretty much impossible, but I think it will be a good starting point. So once we have those 7 motifs, we will make table toppers, and here is what I have in mind right now, which also adds the last idea that I want to talk about. So here is a layout for our table topper that we're going to make for the hexagon motif. And let me just take those rubber bands off. Here is a layout suggestion for the Zoom loom. You will see the 7 motifs will be filled in here, and then choose any supporting color. In the Getting Started guide or Getting Ready guide, I suggest that you pick another color. And one person asked, was like, okay, what is that other color for? And this is what it's for. It will frame the actual embroidery that we will be doing. These are just two suggestions. You can of course, you can see it here. One reason why I'm starting it from a center and work out. If you really get creative and you want to add more motifs or more colors or more borders and things like that, this design will allow you to spread it out, just make it bigger, spread it out and make it bigger, as big as you want, and add as many motifs as you would like. Now in this layout, I have chosen just one color, which provides a very neutral background, and it doesn't have to be brown, it can be any color. So this is just an example. Or also, if you have a lot of stray squares or hexagons floating around, this would be a perfect little project to use up those sample or stray squares that are all different, which gives it will give it a very pretty crazy quilt effect in the end. So anyway, that was a lot of information on getting ready for our weave and stitch along. If you have any questions, you can always find me online as Texas Gabi. So just contact me wherever you see Texas Gabi, contact me, or you can email me at gabi@texasgabi.com and ask any questions. All the information is on turtleloom.com, or contact me wherever you see Texas Gabi or at gabi@texasgabi.com. If you have any questions, I'm very much looking forward to weave and stitch along with you. Thank you very much, and I'll see you soon. Bye.